Hey, what's up everyone? It's me, JBFlintlock. Today we're going to talk heavy guns, big guns, heavy bench rest muzzleloading. So what I do in addition to competing at the Nationals in offhand shooting is I do heavy bench rest class. It's one of the things that I really enjoy most. It helped me win several national championships over the last 3 years, and so it's just one of my favorite things to do. My wife and I compete in these events. We do it at the territorials, the nationals, and also some local clubs. So what I'm going to do today is step back. We're going to go over the gun first, talk about what makes it unique, and then I'm going to come back to this shot here and kind of show a broad overview as I go through the loading sequence and just kind of talk you through the whole process. So let's have a look at the gun. Okay, let's have a look at the rifle here. This is a little over 40-pound gun. It's underhammer ignition, uses a sealed ignition, which we're going to talk about here in a second. It has a 2-inch diameter barrel made of stainless steel, and it has a false muzzle. Right now it's outfitted with peep sights, Redfield International rear and Redfield Olympic front. So let's talk a little bit about the false muzzle. This is something that's unique to muzzleloading and particularly target rifles. So this is a pinned on and it has a locking collar here. False muzzle. And what it does is its main purpose is to protect the crown or the end of the rifling, protect it from things like ramrods, the wear and tear of loading, things like that. Also, it's tapered on the inside so that I can load an oversized patch and ball down the bore. So I said before this is a 58 caliber, but it shoots a 5.95 ball with a 20 thousandths patch. So it's quite a bit overboard. It also has a cant bar that, for when it's in the firing position, helps to keep the gun level so that you're shooting consistently. The sealed ignition works, let's see if I can get a shot of this. So inside this threaded portion here is a nipple that the cap will eventually seat on. So this goes up inside and then it mates with this quarter turn apparatus, which let me see if I can get a better shot of this. Okay, so what I've done is taken the first portion, which contains the nipple, and threaded it up inside the barrel. Here we are looking at the rifle from the shooter's perspective. The next portion of the sealed ignition looks like this here, and it has a handle on it and a threaded portion which goes up inside. This is where you actually place the cap. Now I have a cap loosely set in there. You can see it's protruding just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and push it the rest of the way down, if I can do that one hand. And then when it goes up inside, it is going to seat on to the nipple. Now this quarter turns, and so it's locked into position now. Now whenever I squeeze the trigger, the hammer is going to strike this firing pin and make the cap go off, therefore lighting the charge. I just use regular CCI caps, nothing special, no Magnum, nothing like that. It's not necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and take this back apart and we'll move on. Okay, so after the shot's fired and the handle is removed from the sealed ignition, inside would be a fired cap. And it expands from all the pressure and everything. It has to be removed. So we have this decapper here, and all you do is you lift it up and you put your ignition inside and push down on the firing pin, and it expels the cap into a little container there. So this is just something that I made for my wife to help to do that. And then you're ready for the next shot. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here on the back of the bench really quick, and we'll get into the loading process. So down here I have a dead blow hammer. I have a drop tube. The main purpose of the drop tube is to ensure that the charge gets all the way to the bottom without being infiltrated by moisture from the walls of the barrel. I have two ramrods. One's a light one over here and one's a heavy one. Heavy one I use just for pushing the ball down. The light one is for cleaning and is a big saver of my shoulder. So I have a short starter here, a knife for cutting the patches. I have the patch material here, which is Teflon coated. I have some cleaning patches. Now this would be nowhere enough for a day's worth of shooting because you clean between every shot. I have some cleaning solution just in a old bottle of Dawn. And I have this little contraption here I made for my wife. She really likes it. I 3D printed this, but it holds my powder charges and the ball. And there's 5 of them because we shoot 5-shot targets. So let's step back and take a look at the loading. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is run a clean patch down and make sure that everything is clear. Which it is. It's nice and oiled, as I would expect. So we get it all cleaned out, dried out. Ordinarily, if I was actually going to fire this, I would snap a couple caps first to make sure that the nipple is clear, everything like that. So then get into the loading process. So I'm going to place the drop tube down the barrel first, and then I would take my powder, dump down inside, and I like to tap it and make sure it all comes out of the end of the drop tube. Make sure it gets down in there. And then I would take a ball and my patch material, and I would short start it. This is where the hammer comes in. So I would short start it. And then I trim off the excess. So now I'm left with the ball flush with the muzzle, and in comes the heavy ramrod. So then in as smooth a motion as I can make it, I want to push the ball down. That was a little fast because there's not actually a ball in there. But I like to, usually this requires 2 hands, and slowly lower the ball down and seat it on the bottom. Now you want to make sure that it's seated consistently. You don't want to smash it down and compact your powder more than you have to, but you do need to make sure it's down on top of the charge. So I like to go down and give just a little crunch, but I try and do that as consistently as possible. So that's one of the biggest things with these guns is consistency. Everything from the direction that I have the patch material face to each charge is weighed ahead of time and put out. The balls are weighed and batched into groups. They're hand cast. So now that we have the gun loaded, I'm going to remove the false muzzle. As you can see, it is tied to the bench, and then I'll take the bench, or the gun rather, and lay it down on the bench. So the requirements for the shooting, you can have the front of the gun supported. This controls elevation, and then I control the rear of the gun. So I just have a little bucket here, and little River May is hanging out with us today. So I would place the cap into the handle of the sealed ignition, place that up inside there, it's not going to cooperate. There we go. Quarter turn lock it into position, and then I'd get ready and take the shot. So for today, we're not going to go through all that, but I am going to talk about a little bit about technique. So I wear a glove on my hand just to protect my fingers from the gun. You know, you have downward pressure, the weight of the gun. You also have the rearward pressure when it fires. Now these guns, they don't really kick, but they do push you. So in this case, I shoot, I think 170 grains, 1.5 Swiss, and 176 grains actually is what I'm shooting in this. And so it's a good, healthy charge, and therefore you're not going to stop it, but it is going to push you, but it doesn't give you a sharp kick like a modern rifle would. So I raise the rear of the gun and I put my hand underneath. Now there's different techniques. Some people like more of their hand under it. I like to rest it mostly on my fingers because I don't get as much of a pulse through my finger as I do the meaty part of my hand. So that's why the glove is there, to protect my finger. So I get down on the gun. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me through the microphone. And inside, in this particular application, I'm using my peep sights as opposed to my open sights. So I have an aperture in the front that is, you know, what I determine to be a good size for me to see line up on the target. So I'm lining up all the rings. So you have when I look through here, you know, everything's round. The target is the round black. I'm looking through the aperture is round. The housing of the front sight is round, and what I see through here is round. So everything should line up center, you know, so you want everything equally centered inside, if that makes any sense. I'll try and get a photo or a little video clip of the sight picture so that you can have a better understanding. But you want to, if any of those circles are not in alignment, you're not going to hit where you want to, and you're not going to do it consistently. So best thing, your eyes kind of naturally center things up. So but that's the main part. So some of the other equipment that I didn't mention in this application are the wind flags and a timer. So timer is very important to keep track of your time, because you're going to be watching your wind flags and you want to make sure that you're shooting in consistent wind. So if on a day like today the wind's coming from left to right and that's what you're sighted in for, then you're going to want to shoot that wind. If the wind changes direction, you're going to hold. So that's where watching the timer, making sure that you're managing your shot clock, doing very well, because you don't want to run out of time and not have all your shots fired. So patience is a big part of bench rest shooting, and that goes for, I would say, all bench rest sports, but particularly, you know, here in round ball bench, the wind is not always your friend. So so once you've taken the shot, you're going to decap and then take the gun back to the bench for the cleaning and loading sequence. So first thing you do, take it back and you get your false muzzle on there so that nothing happens to it. And now the process starts all over again. We're going to clean between each shot because we're using Teflon patching, and we want to be as consistent as we can. So the amount of fluid that you put on, the moisture content of your patch, you want it to be consistent. You don't want it sopping wet one time and basically dry the next. You're not going to get a good shot to shot consistency. So I hope that you found this video useful, and I'm going to try and if you have any questions, I'd like to expand on this topic. I'd like to do a light bench day, things of that sort. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment or get a hold of me, via my website or Facebook or Instagram, and we can talk about it. So I thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the range.